Hello and good morning, and welcome to Breakfast for Nonprofits, how to access more funding. We're so excited today about today's webinar. My name is Dr. Shetay, and I'm excited to have with me today Dr. Alexis and Dr. Roundtree. And our whole purpose today is to share with you more about how do you get access to this funding. And so this is a follow on to our Access Summit that we hosted a few weeks ago. And just want to thank everyone again for coming to the Access Summit in Austin, Texas, at the Texas State Capitol. And so we're looking forward to continuing with our webinar series for this month. And so without further ado, I want to bring up my guest for today, Dr. Alexis and Dr. Roundtree. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And so, again, we're just excited to have you join today. And really, again, looking at how do you access this funding? And so, let's start off with introductions. First of all, for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Shetay, and I am the founder of ACCESS. ACCESS stands for Association of Collaborative Communities, equipping youth for STEAM success. And STEAM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, entrepreneurship, the arts, agriculture, and mathematics. And we are closing the STEAM equity gap in Texas, in Florida, and across the nation. And so, with that, I want to also have Dr. Alexis and Dr. Roundtree introduce themselves also.
Oh, well, my name is Dr. Alexis McClinton. I am, many of you know me as in ministry, but my educational background is that I have a PhD in adult professional and community education. And I also have multiple businesses and a nonprofit organization. And so as of late, I've been partnering with universities to help to bring more organizations to connect with funding. That has always been a big thing about me. I love to find out different ways to get funding and to simplify the process. And so hopefully today we can talk about that in the Breakfast for Nonprofits. And I'm so excited to be here with you and Dr. Roundtree, Dr. Shetay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Roundtree. I am an Assistant Vice President for Research at Texas State University. I'm also a professor of technical communication at Texas State. I've been at Texas State for almost a decade now. So, and I've been working with Dr. Ashford-Hanserd on her projects involving STEAM and not just on NSF Includes, which is the grant that sort of brings us here together today, but also her NSF Career Award. She's just an amazing researcher, and she has a real heart for ministry and a heart for service, as do I. So I'm here just to serve and to help however I can.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Just really excited. I'm seeing some of your comments here, and I'm seeing a number of the people who were at the summit. So great to see you all on this morning. Also, some other friends and partners. And so we are excited to have you on with us today. Just a quick overview of what we have planned for today. We want to talk about just some ways for you to access funding. Before we can really get into that, we want to also cover what are the steps that you need to follow in terms of being prepared to access this funding. There's some preliminary preparation that you need to make sure that you have in place prior to actually being able to be successful in going after funding. I'm speaking from experience. To date, I have submitted over $30+ million worth of grants, and I've been successful by the grace of God to have acquired $8 million in funding. So in terms of being a principal investigator, co-principal investigator. So my lens primarily is federal funding. And so when I come on and do these lives, that's really my experience. I have experience with private and also foundation and city level, regional level funding, but really my sweet spot, if you will, is the federal space. With the National Science Foundation, I've also have received funding from USDA, and so and Dr. Roundtree, in her own right as assistant VP, is a very humble individual. And she is in France right now on this live. She just presented her research. I'm so excited for her and her to have her support as well. The session will be recorded. This is a webinar. And so the session will be recorded. You will have access to the replays after the webinar. Great to see you on, Kavita, and everyone else. I don't want to get in trouble by not saying other names, but I do see you on. We see you on, and we're excited. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Alexis, because she really is our resident in her own right. Let me take a step back. In her own right, she has a PhD. Don't get it twisted. She is not an honorary degree. She has the real deal. Okay. So she is up. We are all at the table in on this, right? We all have doctors of philosophy and have spent the time in terms of the rigor of what it takes to attain a PhD from a research institution. And so I value her and her perspective that she brings around research administration, but then also ministry.
Yes, and I wanted to say that, definitely, I think it's important for us as nonprofits to come up and to learn more and to grow more. And that's what these sessions will be monthly, is that we are offering an opportunity for free, that is being funded for us to come and to do lunch and learns, breakfast for nonprofits, just different collaborations to help bring the information for free to you guys. And so I would say take stock in this. And as we are being joined today, we're talking with Dr. Roundtree and Dr. Ashford-Hanserd about different things that we can do to just become better in our nonprofits and to acquire the funding. You just can't go out there and say, give me the funding. It's not going to happen. You have to have some certain things in place. And so I'm more graced in contracts. We've received over close to $1 million or over $1 million in contract funding with the USDA, as well as with other foundation grants. So I am more graced in that level, but I am learning more about the federal level. So I know that Dr. Roundtree today and Dr. Shetay will be talking about that, as far as getting a UEI with SAMS, as well as what Access is all about, and how you can how you may be able to get funding through the university, this initiative. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you guys want to start? I mean,
I think we should start with Dr. Shetay.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so I know many of you are asking, what is Access? And so I want to share with you just some background information about Access and how we got started and why are we doing this as well. And so I mentioned, Dr. Shetay Ashford-Hanserd. I am a department chair at Texas State University, as well as a principal investigator professor in the area of career and workforce education. And so back in 2017, I submitted a grant to the National Science Foundation, and that grant was successful. And this is what started the work for Access Network. And as a part of this grant, we were one of 70 design and development launch pilots that were funded across the nation. And at that time, we had an initial pilot here in San Marcos, Texas. For those of you who are national and you don't know where San Marcos is situated, San Marcos is south of Austin, north of San Antonio. And so we're in this fastly growing region. We like to call it the Texas Innovation Corridor, and it's really one of the fastest growing areas here in the nation. And so as a part of this initiative, what was birthed out of this funding that was given to Texas State University was the ACCESS Network and the ACCESS model. ACCESS Network is basically started off as a coalition of faith-based organizations, churches, faith-based institutions, primarily here in Central Texas area, and then also in collaboration with Texas State and then local cultural organizations. So since then, there's also this ACCESS model. And so I mentioned during the summit, we have already done the work in terms of developing a research model that is already been tested and validated through years of work that we've been doing here with our research team. And as part of this network, when you join the ACCESS network, you gain access to the research, and we train you on how to utilize this model to be able to facilitate programs within your community. And so we have different roles within our ACCESS consortium. So since 2017, I've been building capacity of ACCESS. And at this point, last year, in August 2023, I received a nearly $5 million grant to form an ACCESS consortium. And as a part of this consortium, this is really building upon that work that started in 2017. And we're looking to partner. Primarily, we have additional funding that we can support up to 30 organizations in Texas and Florida, but we're building this network nationwide. And so as a part of this network, we have activators. Our activators are nonprofits such as yourselves, churches, different organizations that want to help to close the STEAM equity gap in your community. Also, we have achievers. Those are our STEM majors that we connect with at various universities within the regions where we serve. And then we also have advocates. So after the summit, we had people who joined the ACCESS network, and we thank you for joining because this helps us to expand the work. And so we plan to build this consortium nationwide. And as we continue to build that, there's various benefits that you will receive as being a part of it. And so, for example, you join a movement. By partnering with us, you join a movement, you gain access to resources to help you close the gap. And these are tangible resources. Like I mentioned, we have funding right now to support 30 organizations, but we're continuing to write additional grants. And so being a part of this network, you gain access to grants because we will write you into our grant proposals. And so that's one way that you gain access to funding, by being a part of the ACCESS network. We also get a chance to build collaborative partnerships. So automatically you are part of the ACCESS University Community Partnership. Also, just by coming to our summits, collaborating with us and joining in with us, you get to meet others that are part of our national network. And then finally, access to resources, training, webinars such as these, and other opportunities. Because we are connected at a federal level, at a national level, you gain access to the resources that we have access to, in addition to our ACCESS model and other resources. And so in terms of the benefits, again, joining our national network, You participate in our trainings, and you will receive a return on investment. For example, those organizations that are part of the 30 that we onboard, and we are accepting um, applications, and we're interviewing just to make sure it's the right fit, there's already a $4,000 return on investment for you being a part of that. And so I'll come back and share some more about this later, and we'll also have a Q&A later. But I just wanted to give you just an overview of what is Access, what are the benefits, and how can you get involved. And so for those who are interested in learning more about joining us, you can scan this QR code and begin to look at our resources online. And we already have some of our partners on today. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. And I want to pass it on back to Dr. Roundtree to go into as well more about gaining access to funding.
Yes. So I have a lot to say today, but we might have to save it for another day. But I did want to, I promised to the folks from the summit that I talked today about obtaining a UEI. So there are lots of steps. Let me just put this in context. There are a lot of steps you have to do. There are a lot of things you have to do in order to steward federal funding properly. And all of this, most of it, is governed by a set of federal policies that all wrapped together are called the Uniform Guidance. And so maybe on another day, we'll talk a bit about or maybe you can ask questions about after this talk about what does the Uniform Guidance require of you. Not just nonprofits and organizations who receive funding through contracts or grants or cooperative agreements. There are lots of ways you can get funding from the federal government, but that comes with strings attached. There's always the federal government wants to steward that money transparently and responsibly, and so it has this suite of federal guidance, this federal policies called Uniform Guidance. And that Uniform Guidance is really what governs you. If you were to apply for federal funding on your own, it would apply to Texas State or any other larger organization who receives federal funding on a regular basis. And we get federal funding not only in grants and contracts and cooperative agreements, but we also receive funding from for a student tuition and loans and things like that, and Pell Grants and things like that. So all of this is really important to know. We can talk about it later, but today I really just wanted to talk about what's the first thing you have to do. There's no getting any funding. There's no getting any grant funding, cooperative agreement funding, contract funding without registering with STEEAAM and receiving a UEI. So let's talk a bit about that today. This was what I promised, and this is what we shall deliver. So let's see here. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see the slides? Yes? Okay, great. So the UEI is the unique entity identifier that the federal government requires to do business with any organization. So if you want to do business with the federal government, then you have to have this. And this replaced what was once the DUNS number. So let's talk about how to get one. I'm not sure, for those of you who are in the chat, let me know if you already have one. Here's the question on hand. Do you have a UEI number? Yes or no? Type in the chat if you a yes or no, and I'll proceed. And so what is required as the steps that are required to receive a UEI is that you have to determine your eligibility and see if you meet the requirements. You have to create a login.gov account if you haven't already. And then you register with STEEAAM. That allows access to STEEAAM, where you can start a new registration to enroll yourself to receive a UEI. You have to provide a lot of information and documentation. You review it to make sure it's accurate. You submit it and you wait. And you wait. And I think it's like 3 to 6 months. I could be wrong about that. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. You will receive a UEI. The trick is making sure that you have the right information. Yeah, that's great. So this is all good information. So you have to make sure that you have that you meet the eligibility and requirements and that you have the right documentation in hand. And depending on if you have this stuff on hand or not, that might extend the time it takes to get the UEI. So let's talk a bit about the eligibility. You need to have a legal entity status. So I'm not sure how many of you have it, but your organization has to be legally recognized as a corporation or a partnership or a nonprofit organization or a government entity within the United States. So another question, new question. Do you have legal entity status? Like, do you have your 501(c)(3)? Like, do you have it? Yes or no? Another question to ask. And do you have a valid taxpayer identification number? I don't know if you all have your own. Yeah, so legal entity status, that was my question to y'all. And some of you do, some of you don't. So you need to be registered as something. You need to be registered as an entity that the federal government can do business with. So good, yes and yes. And then the other question I had was, do you have a valid taxpayer identification number? I don't know if you're kind of using your own Social Security. I wouldn't. If it's a sole proprietorship, you might be using your Social Security, but I'm not a lawyer. Yes. An EIN, yeah, that works. An employer identification number, yeah. That's right. That's good. You need a physical address. You cannot use a PO box. You can use a PO box as a mailing address, but you cannot get one of these unless you have a physical address. And then you also have to have active status. Like, you can't be debarred or suspended or excluded from federal programs. And so I will say that debarment and suspension, if you enter into the wonderful world of federal funding without having all of your ducks in a row, it increases the likelihood that you might be debarred, or because you might do something that inadvertently, you're probably operating on good faith and you're not trying to do anything wrong. But we can talk about later what the uniform guidance requires of an entity to make sure that they have all of their sort of internal controls in hand before they embark upon stewarding funding like this. So you just have to make sure that you don't have a debarment. And I would recommend that you make sure that all of your ducks are in a row before you venture into having a big relationship with a federal, either a federal partner or with someone who has federal funding. Okay, so then let's move on to the documents that you will need. You will need an article of incorporation or organization. Do you all have that? Do you have articles of incorporation or some formal document that demonstrates your existence as an entity? The legal and documents that establish your entity's formation. You'll need bylaws and operating agreements. You'll need some financial statements, and you'll need an IRS determination letter. Then, you'll need to give information about your entity, right? You'll have to give your legal business name, the official name that your organization is registered as, a doing business as name if you need it, that physical address, your mailing address, the country of incorporation, which will be the United States, obviously, and then the state of incorporation. And so for many of you, maybe you're working with partners in other states, you need to sort of make a decision about this, or you should have made a decision about where your entity will be incorporated, which state. You're going to have to provide tax information. That's the easy stuff, the taxpayer ID, and then a confirmation letter, like your confirmation letter. And here an EIN might work as well. It could be your Social Security there too. You'll have to give business information. You'll have to give your entity type, whether you're a corporation, a nonprofit, a partnership, a sole proprietorship, your date of incorporation, the fiscal year end date. So you have to sort of tell the federal government upon what's your fiscal year, what fiscal year you operate on in terms of your books, your auditing and your books, the number of your employees, and your annual revenue. So let me ask this question. Let me pause. For those of you who are in the room, has there been anything that I mentioned that you don't have so far, that you're thinking, boy, I need to get this? And what is it? If there's something that you're missing, let me put in the chat what you might be missing, as we've just sort of listed these essential documents and requirements. Okay. Yes, what are you missing? Thank you. Are you missing tax information? Are you missing business information? Are you missing some of your entity documents? Or is there anything that you're missing? What if you don't have an EIN and have generated revenue yet? Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure that it's going to, it might be the case that they ask you to resubmit your application until you do. I don't think that you can, unless an entity, like legally speaking, unless an entity has made transactions, it's not a thing yet. So it may be the case that starting small, for example, starting with something like the model that ACCESS provides you, because really ACCESS gives you a really safe way to collaborate. You can collaborate as your own entity, and you could be what's like the PI, you could be the primary organization that the federal government enlists or provides funding. You can be a what's called a subcontract. And so a subcontract is almost, I mean, it's, if you have a subcontract or a subaward from a primary with who, or that the federal government funds or sponsors, you are still you're beholden to the same responsibilities, the same financial responsibilities as that primary institution. But then you can also be a contractor. And a contractor has a little less, a contractor has a little fewer, I guess, hoops to jump, for want of a better word. It's a bit more of a easier transaction. And so what ACCESS provides is that contractor soft entry point, right? Where you are receiving federal funding through Texas State or through this federal award that was earned by Dr. Ashford-Hanserd, but it gives you a starting point. Like if it was me, if I had a nonprofit, that's probably where I would start. I would start by being a contractor for federal funding. Why? Because as a contractor, I don't have to go through the kind of risk, the compliance checks. And I also don't have to go through the risk auditing that is required when you have a higher level of relationship with the federal government. So to me, that's how you would start to answer the question earlier. So someone said that they're confused. If you have a question, let me know. So if you have no activity at all, if you don't have an organization, or maybe all you have is a doing business as, but you haven't received funding yourself, having something like a contractor relationship with Access is a pretty easy starting point. It's a really easy starting point to begin to demonstrate to, the federal government, to demonstrate also to your partners, your community partners, that you can steward federal funding. So being a contractor, I would say, would be the first step. If you've received no funding ever, and you don't have federal bank transactions, and you aren't fully an entity like that, you could start by having a soft landing, like a very slight entry point, which would be to partner up with something like ACCESS. So that's all. I think that answered that question. I don't know though. And then I don't know if I answered the question of the person. So yeah, the steps to become a contractor are different from organization to organization, but again, it's a part of what ACCESS will do. If you're ready to enter into this relationship where it's still a contract. You still have to have a relationship with ACCESS where you're promising to host camps, and then ACCESS will funnel money to you to make sure those camps are hosted properly. That's a really safe beginning point where you can start to show as an entity that you're capable of managing, stewarding federal funding. That's a good starting place, in my opinion. It's a nice, soft, safe starting place where a lot of the sort of compliance infrastructure, like making sure all the auditing and compliance checks about how money is spent, all of that, Texas State or the larger primary organization, they manage that for you. And then you learn along the way as you're going, as you're interacting with that organization. Okay, let me keep going. And then there's banking information, obviously, because they can't award you money if you don't have banking information. And again, so, if it's me, if you don't already have it and you're trying to work up to be an organization with this kind of relationship with the federal government, you need to have don't put this in your own money. Do not put federal funding in your bank or routing number, your personal banking numbers or routing numbers. I wouldn't do it. It's a tax nightmare for yourself when you're having to explain to the federal government why money was transferred in and out of your personal account. It's just not worth it. And we strongly discourage it for our own PIs, much less y'all. So I would make sure that you have your organization has its own banking or routing number, and that kind of thing. And then you need core data, which is the North American Industry Classification System. You need to classify yourself. And actually, I'll show you in the next slide that that's pretty easy to do in the next few slides. You need to have your business type and a commercial and government entity code. So when you're in the SAM system, the CAGE code is going to automatically be assigned to you because you're already giving your entity information. You're already telling the federal government what kind of agency or entity you are. And then it uses that, an algorithm uses that to then tell you what your CAGE number should be or your CAGE code. But the North American Industry Classification System is different. There's a tool and a guide that you can use to help you determine your industry code. And so if y'all want to just take a picture of this slide, those are the tools and the guides for how to do it. And that's it. That's all the time I have. So those are is there membership fee to be contracted through ACCESS? So, this is a great segue. There are lots of questions about ACCESS right now. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Dr. Shetay. And remember, we'll have more of these lunch and learns. We'll talk a bit more about, I feel like this is definitely a calling because I think it's really important for organizations, for especially public institutions like Texas State, to really steward, like we are funded by taxpayer dollars too, to a certain extent in Texas. So I think it's a real responsibility for public institutions to get our community ready to partner with us, not just to sort of cast a net and see who will come in and partner with us, but to get y'all ready so that you are not only an incredible partner in your reach and the community you serve, but also that you're ready in terms of your organizational structure. So I hope we could talk a bit more about uniform guidance at another lunch and learn. So Liberia, wow, I don't know. So Dr. Ashford-Hanserd, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, let me stop sharing too. Okay, there you go.
Great. Thank you. Great information. Thank you for sharing that information. This is what we need as nonprofit organizations to even be able to enter into the game. You must have this information you must have these requirements in place. It's essential. Um, Before we get into our Q&A, I just wanted to underscore again what Dr. Roundtree has shared. And we're going to go deeper, as we continue on with those who have already joined ACCESS. We're going to definitely go deeper into this. I know there's a lot of questions about ACCESS, and the two primary functions right now of the ACCESS partnership model is our activators. You are those who are basically in the trenches, working closely with youth in your community, perhaps also families. And so you are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, a 501c3, or your church, and you're doing this work in the community. And so, by joining us again, in terms of the benefits of that, yes, you will have the opportunity to be contracted with Texas, with ACCESS. And what I mean by that is, just to clarify what we mean by that, is we will establish a memorandum of understanding with you, just to make sure we're clear on what your role is, on what our role is in this partnership. And so, number one, you join our collaborative network. Number two, as well, you gain access to resources and funding. So our activators are the ones that we are helping to support with stipends. I mentioned those first 30 sites. And so we're looking at right now a return on investment of at least $4,000 to $5,000 for those initial sites. And then also being included in, someone asked about, how do I get included into a grant? When you join us, as we look at writing additional grants, if we're doing a nationwide grant, we'll look for sites, and there'll be some criteria, eligibility criteria you would have to meet, in terms of making sure that it's the right fit and that you have the capacity. But there's different ways that we can onboard you in terms of being a part of a collaborative grant. And then there's some that may just be regionally focused as well. And so, so there's a lot of opportunity there, but then also grant writing support. And so through our team of myself, Dr. Roundtree, there's other researchers on our team. We also have access to postdoctoral scholars, graduate research assistants, undergrad research assistants. We can review grants and just give you some feedback. We can't write grants. That's outside the scope of our services. We're not writing them for your individual programs, but we can review and provide you feedback, and then also establish a partnership with you, which can help to strengthen your grant proposal. And then also, we're looking for affiliates. And so some people have already joined ACCESS as an affiliate. And affiliates are those who are within communities that we're looking to expand to, and you're going to be our point person in that community. And so definitely want to give a shout out here to Mr. Darren Robinson, because he signed on as an affiliate. And so we're looking forward to connecting more with him and his organization as we expand out as well. And so there are others that may want to be a part of this as an affiliate, where, I'm not just looking to just be an activator where I get supported. I want to help grow the network too, and I want to help support it and help expand your reach within my community, my area. And so we're definitely looking for those two. And then advocates, those who they see the vision, they see the mission. Perhaps you're a consultant. You want to provide some of your services to our community. And that's where you would join as an advocate. And so I put the partnership link in the chat. And so that's that. I want to turn it over to Dr. Alexis just to help facilitate and moderate any questions that you all may have.
Thank you guys for the information. It's very insightful, and it's important that we know it. Dr. Roundtree, as you spoke about the UEI, that was a process that I went through three years ago, and it absolutely was a daunting process for me because I was trying to get in SAMS, right? So I actually outsourced it so for someone to help me to apply to SAMS. And you guys, I outsourced it through Fiverr. That's what I did. I found someone there to help me. And I think that if you cannot, if you can't do it immediately, if you can't do it on your own, find someone to help you. That's my recommendation. So that you can be viable, so that you can, somebody can assist you. Also, another good thing about being a part of ACCESS is that you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And when you are applying for funding, you want to be able to write that into your own funding. When they ask you what partnerships do you have, you're going to need MOUs, which are memorandums of understanding, to show that maybe you don't have the capacity, but your partners have the capacity to do the work that is needed in your grant that you are applying for. It doesn't matter if this is a federal or a foundation grant. They're going to ask you, who are your partners? Your partners can't just be somebody you make up like, oh, I'm partnered with the grocery store. Okay, great. Let me see the document that says you're partnered with the grocery store. And I'm telling you this because I've written this, and got the feedback. You didn't get this grant. You missed it because we did not see who you were partnered with. So I highly recommend that this is like an in-house networking, if you will, where you're able to come in and network with individuals virtually or in person, because we do have quarterly and even yearly meetings that are hosted where you can meet with these other organizations. Now, this specific org, this grant is focused on STEAM, right?
Mhm.
Science, technology, engineering, entrepreneurship, arts, agriculture, and math. And they're even wanting to expand that to medicine and mental health. I think I heard you guys say medicine or something. Trying to see if we can get that scope of all of those different things where so many unique programs can fit in there. Can you imagine how many unique programs can fit into that STEAM title? So I think that it's important that you guys really understand what they're saying. I wish I had an opportunity like this 8 years ago when I first started, and I didn't have this opportunity, but I thank God that I have it now. And so I am an advocate for the work that they're doing, and to be a part of like like they're saying, like a university, connecting faith-based, and then also ACCESS being that go-between, right? Connecting faith-based organizations to this opportunity. Okay. So yes, there is a fee to be a part of this. I think it's very small. And we're not saying to get the funding. We're saying there's a fee to get the learning, right? To get connected, to get written in. And it's very small. And it's on her website. I don't even know if you have the rates kind of on there. Okay,
Mhm.
are you able to kind of tell us what those are?
Yes, I definitely can. And so I put the link in the chat, and what we're looking here for is activators. So as an activator, you may be a grassroots nonprofit, just starting your nonprofit. It's $20 a month, basically. And so that's a nominal fee for, as I mentioned, for those first 30 sites that we have a secured grant for, $4,000 back to you. And so we're not.
And is that yearly, the $4,000
That's
every year that they do the camp? And that's a 2-week camp, a 1 or 2 week camp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two
Someone
weeks.
asked if it was summer camps, and I know up to this point it has been summer camps, but we've also been talking about other options too. Although someone asked that in the chat about was it a summer camp?
It's a summer camp right now. What we have, and we're facilitating these here locally, we have a STEAM Vacation Bible School, STEAM VBS curriculum. It's 8 weeks. We can customize that and tailor it. We have a new partner here in Austin that's going to be actually piloting that next week. I haven't told you two about that one. Brand new one. So excited to work with Miss Erica on that, and so we're excited to. They're going to do a 1 week STEAM VBS, and then thanks again, shout out to Sozo Church who initially started that 1 week camp, and we've been building upon that. So we have a STEAM VBS, but also as well, we're looking to provide you with a monthly lesson to integrate that STEAM lesson into your Sunday school, into your weekly. If you have a youth meeting, youth ministry on a weekly basis, or youth after school program. And so we're going to be providing STEAM lessons as well on a monthly basis. And so letting the cat out the bag, we are building a membership platform. And so that we're looking to roll that out in the next couple of months. And so that's where you'll have access to these resources, those who are a part of this. But for now, I'm meeting with each person who joins individually, providing support on capacity building because we realize that's important. And then also I'm getting you onboarded. And so we're excited. As the network is containable right now, I have the ability to schedule a few meetings a week with new partners just to provide support. And then you plug in with us as well. And I've extended myself for free. I'm not charging anyone for these meetings. And I should have an hourly rate, but I don't. And I don't get paid through Access, by the way. I get paid through Texas State. And our board for Access Network is a volunteer board of directors. And so we're not getting paid. Dr. Roundtree is not getting paid through Access. This money is not going to us. We're building capacity of this network. And so we have very low overhead cost. We mostly pay, we have a program manager, interim program manager, Kimberly Armstrong. If you came to the summit, you got a chance to meet her. And then we're paying a lot of our students as instructors. And as we expand, we continue to expand that model into other communities and supporting organizations that can help us do that into new communities. So we have a good model here in San Marcos where we have our Access University Community Resource Center. And so we operate out of there, and then we're looking to expand that into other communities and partnering with our hubs, our affiliates to do so. And so more to come on that.
Yeah, and I love Tawanji, I love what you're saying about kind of partnering with multiple different organizations for the different work they do. For instance, Tawanji Hiller just said, are we able to share the partnership link with viable organizations? We ask that you please share it. And I know her organization serves like reentry, and they do a lot surrounding that. Like imagine implementing STEAM in reentry. That would be amazing, you know? So we're interested in kind of partnering. Even I saw somebody talking about the international work. And I think that it can be across the board to really see what the Lord wants to do with access, to give access to all, and to make sure that we have opportunity that we previously have not had as underserved faith communities. That is the goal. And so
And with that, really quick, this is not just for Texas. This is a national network. We are building a national network. So that's why we want affiliates, and let us know who feels that tug on your heart to become an affiliate, because we want to build. And so we, like, as the NSF includes grants that we do have targeted funds for Texas and Florida. But in addition to that, we're building this consortium nationally. And I mentioned I would love to come back to Liberia. I've been to Liberia. So as we have capacity, we will consider and going into other nations as well. This
I,
is
I
not
agree. I mean,
limited to just Texas and Florida.
I'm telling you because
Dr.
people.
Dr.
Go ahead.
Dr. Shetay, I've always said that when I
It's
think
international.
about God's vision for this idea that He's given you,
Yes.
that you're going to steward into fulfillment, I don't see it. I see it spanning across national boundaries. I think this is a
Yes.
really important movement. And again, hat off. I'm speaking just as a Christ follower. That it's about time. We need to do this. Like we need to reclaim. We need to reclaim science, technology, entrepreneurship. We need to reclaim it
Come
for the
on.
kingdom, for
That's
the
right.
kingdom. And so I see that not just as a national thing,
That's
but
Yes.
I'm speaking to you now from Nice, France. I see this as an international, a global movement.
girl. Come on. It's
Amen.
prophetic. I'm
Amen.
telling you. When I'm sitting here, I'm sitting here looking international. I'm seeing, I'm like, no, it's international. Then you have national, then you have regional, and you have local because people are called to different things. But even the
Yes.
fact that we have partners in South Africa, we have partners in Australia, we have partners all over the world, and really that's what I'm coming in to help with is to increase the visibility of this work because it's
Yes.
amazing what you guys are doing. So I agree. I felt such a wind on that, Dr. Amy. I felt a wind on that thing. I'm telling you. Now look, I can be in my preacher stance. I felt something on that. It was prophetic. Come on. You guys.
Amen.
And so I love that. And so the capacity is being
Mhm.
built as people come alongside. And we
Yes.
just are going to continue to do this to help people,
Yeah. This is about like science, technology, all that's about God's order. Like I do a lot of work too with like AI ethics and things like that. And it's missing God. Like it's missing his spirit. We need to be in these rooms. We need to be a part of these technologies. We need to be designing these technologies with him in mind, devoted to him, devoting these non-human agents and all of these sort of cool technological and scientific advancements. We need to be there in the room
Come on.
devoting it to him, just like we devote our hearts, our minds, our souls. We need to be devoting this stuff to him as well.
That's right. It would be really good.
Mhm.
I love what you're talking about. Maybe if we could add that, Dr. Roundtree, if we could add that to one of our conversations about AI and about how can we what because it's a scary thing to faith communities as far as are they going to take our place? What does it look like? But my biggest
Well,
thing is
God hasn't given me a spirit of fear. We need to
come
enter
on,
into these spaces with boldness
power, love,
and
and light.
readiness.
That's
And
right.
he's going to put us in these spaces and he's going to use us to shepherd, to
Mhm.
steward this so that not only all knees are bowing, but all algorithms are bowing. And
Come
all
on,
right,
you
Mm.
better.
everything's
Come
bowing.
on now.
Every
Now,
algorithm got to bow. Come on, at the name of Jesus. Come on, listen.
Mm. Don't get me started over here.
Don't get us started now. Dr. Amy that came through and said,
although, like
listen,
I said, that's taking my hat off. That was not as a representative of Texas State. That's just me as
but
a,
you're absolute
a
and you're good.
follower,
It's
a
because
Christ follower.
we have to say that sometimes, when you're dealing federally. But what I
Mm.
will say is I do think that it's prophetic that you are in, that you're in France right now where the Olympics are taking place because the Olympics are global. And so I think that it is a prophetic message to what the Lord wants to do with
Mhm.
this type of work. And I'm again speaking as a faith as a woman of faith in this I'm in this community. I do this work all the time, hitting the ground, helping the faith communities, and I've been doing it for so long with Get Funded and different things like that to try to help us. So I love this. I love being a part of it, you guys, and I recommend that you come alongside as well.
And I just can't keep silent after all of that.
You
Now,
can't.
I can't keep silent as a Christ follower as well. Anyone that knows me and knows my heart, this is kingdom work for me. I embody this work. If I wasn't getting paid by Texas State, I would still do this work. I did it before I came to Texas State. And so basically this is an opportunity. I want to speak to every person and every organization that's on board. This is an opportunity to expand the kingdom in your community, in your sphere of influence. And I firmly believe that there will be resources. There will be resources that will flow in dry times, okay? When there doesn't seem to be resources available, I believe that God is going to bless this initiative to where there will be resources, and that there will be things that will happen that also we're building the organizations. The focus is on STEAM, but we're going to follow a holistic approach to where we're also looking at food and agriculture, and we need all of these components together because it's part of a solution. It's part of a kingdom solution. And so yes, our focus with the funding that we have currently is on STEAM, but as we look at access and what we're about, we're looking at holistically how we can provide the resources that are needed for sustainment of these organizations and of the people that you serve. And so I'm going to stop there. It's a kingdom agenda, and we're really excited for those that join as a part of this movement. And we're just excited. I'm excited to see what God will do in and through this movement. And so thanks again to Dr. Alexis for your support. That speaks volumes for you to be a part of this. Thank you so much for your advocacy and being a part of this. Thank you, Dr. Roundtree, for your support as well. And thank you to each one of you who are on today. Those of you who have already joined, we're excited to connect with you. Stay tuned for more. Again, we're going to be doing these on a monthly basis. And so stay tuned for more Breakfast with Nonprofits. And also for those who have been asking, the replay will be available. And so for those who have registered for the webinar, you will have access to the replay. And so feel free to share this information and share the link for those who you believe should be a part of this movement as well. So with that, that concludes our Breakfast with Nonprofits for today. Thank you for being on, and we'll see you next time.